Great. Welcome to Real Talk. I'm going to start with introducing Vanessa. So Vanessa is the Digital Communication and Marketing Manager with Tartan. That's the PR company that the BC Trail works with. It's an integrated PR and communications firm. Vanessa's core strengths include strategic digital communication and research development of marketing strategies. Vanessa has over 15 years of working as a marketing professional with a focus on digital communications, including but not limited to social media, strategy development and execution, and advertising campaign development. She works closely with her clients to set goals and meet objectives in relation to their overall business objectives. Her favorite beer right now is anything hazy with a punch of fruit, and if it pairs well with pizza, right? Welcome, Vanessa. We have an extra person up here that I don't have a bio for. Okay, perfect. Okay. So over to Vanessa. Enjoy the session.
Thank you, Monica. So I'll add on to that. I have an aggressive side hustle in that we own 2 small businesses as well on Vancouver Island. So I own a pizza company and a cafe. So I come today with agency experience, but also small business experience as we talk about resources and creating video content. Plug. It's called Bicycle Pizza because we like biking and we like pizza, and we just mash those 2 words together. And then the cafe is out in Brentwood Bay. So. As mentioned, I'm the Director of Digital and Integrated Marketing for Tartan. So we are a integrated communications firm in Canada with offices across the country and then associates in the UK as well. So today we're talking about video content. There's been a lot of talk in the last 2 days about video content and the importance of integrating it in organic social media. What we're going to do today is talk about why we're embracing that, essentially. So it's a 30-minute session. We have lots to go through. We've got an excellent panel here, and we're going to have a discussion question-answer period, and then we're going to open it up to the group if you have any questions for us to interrogate our panelists. But let's not interrogate because they volunteered to be here today. In terms of any housekeeping items, keep your questions to the end, please, and we'd love to tap into their knowledge, essentially. So we're going to go through the why and the what with me, and they're going to explain the how. So let's introduce our panelists. So on the far right, Ben, I think he wins the award for the best headshot he sent into us. And he's also, Backcountry Brewing has also just won a social media award. So congrats. And I mean, there's no surprise that he's on our panel here today in terms of what they're doing in the social media and organic space. Isaiah Archer, co-founder and director of marketing for Buoy in Victoria. And then Will Miller, the owner of the beer family, or the beer farmers in Squamish. Pemberton and Squamish, and then Victoria. So thanks for being here, guys. Let's see here. Okay, hands up. Who is dabbling in Instagram Reels right now and TikTok? So about a quarter of the room. In your weekly content calendar, who's dabbling in, so who's aggressively working on video content weekly? Okay, about 2 or 3 of you. Who has a content calendar? Get a content calendar, it'll save your life. So, okay, that's great. So what's important here is there's a rise in the need to produce video content. And we're going to get into the algorithm today in terms of the why and how you can remain relevant and competitive in terms of the content that is getting served to our audience. So why video content? Well, for the teams out there that aren't taking part in video content, you're probably noticing a decline in your engagement, in your interaction over the last 5 to 6 months, depending on the content you're putting out there. And it's a fine balance about serving content your audience wants to consume and also delivering it in a way that the algorithms are showing it to other people. So a huge stat here, 91% of Instagram users are watching Reels each week. 91%. So if you're not creating Reels, you're probably not getting seen anymore. So it's important to start dabbling in that content. And our panelist today is going to be able to break down some of those barriers for you on how to start getting involved. I mean, social media is a place to celebrate, engage, get creative, try some new things. And so Reels are a really great way to start doing that. And then another one here is that Reels are getting seen twice as many times in terms of engagement than regular static posts. So when we say static, it's just an image or a carousel. So really having that video content is really impactful in order for it to get seen to our target audience. So what is a Reel? What is a TikTok? I mean, a video is a way to build an experience with your audience. So it's more than just a photo. You know, you're able to identify your brand voice. You can tailor it with a song. You can have someone speaking. It really helps identify who you are as a brand and the individuals behind the scene. So there's so much you can do with it. It builds that experience, and I think that's really, it's an extension of your branding, and I think that's something to be able to convey, and you can do so much in the form of a video as opposed to try to tell a story in a number of images. And again, I'm really hoping to lean on these three to tell us how they do that and balance their brand story as well as showing it in a way in a dynamic form. So I'm going to pretend to know a little bit about the algorithm, and it keeps shifting. And it should be said that TikTok's algorithm and Instagram's algorithm are completely different. So TikTok, you tell it what you want to see, and then it'll serve you content. The Instagram algorithm works on relevancy, engagement, interactions, and so it is a remarketing tactic that puts forward content that they think you want it to see. So has anybody clicked on an F1 article or an F1 image, and all of a sudden they start getting remarketed Lewis Hamilton stuff? And it happens to me, and I curse myself because then my whole feed is about F1. So essentially, it's a tactic on they're assuming that my interests have shifted, and they're starting to serve me content about race car drivers, sexy vehicles, and I'm not that interested anymore just because I clicked on one ad. So it's important that you are putting out content that your audience wants to consume, and then it'll continue to serve you relevant content. And so the algorithm shows up in the Reels tab on Instagram, in the Explore tab, and again, it's all based on that relationship. So how are you creating content in the form of a video that's going to pique curiosity, that's going to celebrate what they want to see? And again, it's about creating content that your audience wants to consume, not necessarily what you want to tell them. So how are you going to tell them about that blueberry seasonal? You know, how are you going to show that in the form of a video? Because it's something you're excited to say, but in a way that they want to see it. So it's about breaking down that story. So here are two of my favorite besties in terms of how to play with the algorithm. So there's trending content and there's trending sounds. And so these are two of my tricks and hacks. Essentially, on the bottom of Instagram, you'll see that ticker with the music. And if you see an arrow pointing up, you know that it's trending. Has anyone played with that before? One hand, yes. So essentially, if you see that arrow going up, that's Instagram identifying that that song is on trend. So you can take advantage of it. And the algorithm produces that arrow. So it says over a series of days, it's received X amount of interactions, and it says, this song is on trend right now. And so you can go and save that original audio. And we'll talk about trends and audio as we get into the panelists. Save that audio, create a reel with that, and essentially you're starting to play the game. The second is the templated feature. So again, I know enough to be dangerous when it comes to editing content, but sometimes you don't have time. You know, I have a family and 2 small businesses and a full-time job, and I'm not going to pinch and screen on an app on my desktop. And using these templates and finding a content creator that's already mashed a song with the lyrics to a beat, you can go and you can use that template, insert your brand, insert your audio, and you're able to, essentially remove a lot of barriers when you're creating that content. So those are 2 of my favorites. So a couple do's and don'ts. Do. Make your content fun, engaging, inspiring. Create relatable content. try new things. You know, it may flop, but it's a low risk. When we talk about traditional advertising versus social media, which is absolutely a form of advertising, you know, you're able to get creative and try new things, be silly, you know, dabble in what your brand can and cannot do, and hop on board those trends and see how it works with your engagement. I mean, look at your insights, see what's working with your audience, see what they're interested in liking, and then continue to feed them that content. These are no-brainers, blurry, low-resolution images, no watermarks. So a lot of the apps available have a watermark. It could be a pay-to-play. Some of them are a couple bucks a year, but it's worth it. And we're going to leave you with a digital toolkit at the end with a lot of great editing apps, scheduling apps, so things that you can play with. Monica's got her favorite. We've got our favorites. These three will talk about what they're using. Find one that works for you and your team and stick with it. And try to avoid text, a lot of selling. It's a space, social media is a space to tell a story, and you can with text, but keep it to a minimum. So let's watch one of the BC Ale Trails reels. There's a shameless plug here.
So, it's about that time of year when we get 6 breweries together from all over BC to collab on the Explore BC beer. Let's go check it out.
So a trending sound. You could have used this as a template. So they've mashed up the song with all those clips. They were able to stick in a lot of their branded content in there. Had a really nice, engaging, human element at the beginning. It did really well for them. So that's a great example. That was like maybe 9 to 11 seconds of a reel that you could start to incorporate with some of the images that your team takes of the brewery, that your taproom staff, if you're producing something in the back, get a bunch of content and mash it up to a song and see how it performs in your daily or in your weekly content calendar. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about the how. I think now we should talk to our fantastic panelists and tell them about, and they're going to talk about some of their experiences in terms of creating this video content. Okay, Isaiah, you're up. How do you, at Buoy, manage your time and resources to make some of this video content? You do.
Thanks for having me. So for us, we do have we're lucky to have someone that we can work with in Victoria that is basically like a one-person production house where not everyone has that opportunity. So our friend Ryan Steele, if you've seen some of our social media videos, he does a lot of them for us, and he's a comedian and he's an illustrator. And so we kind of work together to create maybe 3 videos a quarter that are based around some of our content pillars or launching new beers that we know we're going to release down the road, so we can kind of plan for those ones and invest a little bit more into them. And then we also do just kind of leave space for things that are sporadic or off the cuff where there's an opportunity that sort of presents itself, and then you just kind of have to be a little bit more nimble. I kind of half of the videos are planned, couple months in advance, and then half we just know we're gonna figure something out as it goes when we kind of the right fit kind of arises.
And Ben, a sub-question, is it someone's part-time or full-time job at Backcountry to create some of this content? And how do you justify working with the resources that you have available?
Howdy, mic check. So we have, I spend 3 days a week on marketing, and I have a partner who helps 3 days a week as well. So it's technically 48 hours, probably a lot more. And video takes up a ton of time, so you can't do it for every post, and unless you're just kind of shooting from the hip, which is also cool too. You can capture some fun moments just being around the brewery, obviously. But how do we justify that? Well, no one has stopped me. I think that's but I did work in video and shot a lot of cheap videos that were fun, and so we kind of just kept going with that, and it didn't used to work very well, and then the algorithm changed, and now it works really well. So looking pretty good now. But otherwise, basically, we justify it because we're trying to build a brand, and we have some of the most expensive beer in the province, so we better do a good job with our marketing, or else we don't look so hot. But yeah, so it works well. Right now, especially, it's basically 5 times, 10 times the engagement we get on a photo, and nothing blows up like a fun video that you can share. So obviously, if you hit all those notes right, you can get people to share, comment, subscribe, whatever, and up you go in the algorithm, and then you're laughing.
And then Will, how are you prioritizing video content?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I think from our perspective, too, we're a really small company. I think a lot of people might be able to relate to that. The social media guy is just the person with the nicest cell phone, you know, or the person who knows what the password for the Instagram account is. But that being said, I think you can still do a really effective job on that scale, and I think people can relate to that. And I think in that situation, you have to be extra efficient with your time. And I think that video content is really good in that sense because you're able to pack a lot more information into every post that you're doing. So as far as prioritizing videos, kind of like what these guys are saying, we do a little bit of pre-planned stuff that we know that's going to work. And then we also have styles of videos that we know work really well. So for us, we do a lot of like beginning, middle, end style videos. So the process of something being completed with a nice thumbnail. And this is something that everyone can do. It's super easy. You just use the, Instagram Reel creators. It's just such a good savings on your time. And then also for being time efficient, we try to remove any of the barriers. Maybe you might have too many chefs in the kitchen, they say. So maybe remove some of those gatekeepers to getting content posted. And if you have your brand guidelines down pat, then maybe only one person needs to create and post content. And if you have less gatekeepers to getting it actually online, you might have more success with achieving your goals. And for us, it's simple. It's like if we can be posting at least a video content every single week, we're pretty happy. Like that would be a good result for us. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Amazing, thank you. Let's talk about the content pillars and how some of these breweries are breaking down those pillars, those brand, like telling your brand story in the form of a video. So Isaiah, at a high level, can you explain the process when you're brainstorming a video for an idea? And you can choose one of your reels that you've produced, maybe the basketball one.
Yeah, if we're going to show that one. Usually we kind of approach it either kind of like Will was saying, if you see a video sort of format out there that works, you can easily replicate those formats. So sometimes we'll go in sort of have a comedic style or content creator that we've seen do a really funny video, and it's like, well, we're going to try to achieve something along those lines. We did one for our hazy IPA recently, low vis. You can check it out on our socials. But that was just looking at PD USA. He's a content creator and a comedian on Instagram that we just got inspiration from. And so we're like, okay, we're going to try to create a PD video with our own product in mind. So obviously starting with the goal of we're trying to sell this beer, or we're trying to have fun with a creative concept, and then kind of approach it like a writing room. 3 of us usually get together in the same room and bounce ideas off the wall, and then whatever I think feels the most authentic, whatever gets laughs in the room, we kind of will lean into those little spots where it feels like, oh yeah, we actually thought that was funny, so our audience will think it's funny. So.
I mean, it comes from a place of wanting to celebrate. We're educating, we're inspiring, we're piquing curiosity. And if you're starting, that's what social media is here for. We're there to celebrate, and we're there to have fun, and we're there to engage with our users. And so creating content that gives people a little bit of a chuckle is more likely to get shared with a friend or a family, or get saved, or someone's going to tag themselves, or, essentially pin that idea to do in their own brand or business or industry. So the more that you can start to play in terms of those trends, you're working with the algorithm. So everyone's thinking social media, what does that mean for my business? How is it going to bring more people into my tap room? How is it going to put bums in seats or heads in beds? And so I'd love some real talk from the three of you in terms of when you start to see video content performing well, what does that mean to the brewery?
Yeah, I guess I'll speak on that. Yeah, I think when we're creating content, we're considering that. So I think it's important when you're creating content of any kind, throw in some stuff with a feedback loop in it. Certain phrases or specific offers or events. And that's a really great way to assess if people are actually paying attention to this or if they're just casually clicking it. If you have people coming into your tasting room specifically mentioning a phrase or an event that you've brought up, that's a really good way to test if you're actually having reach beyond just likes and follows, which may not necessarily be your only goal, right? For us, we really depend a lot on foot traffic, and having a viral TikTok challenge might not really help us a lot in that sense. Any other comments on that?
Yeah, so I guess when a piece of video or a reel or TikTok performs well, it means that we're connecting with our audience, and you want to do more of what you just did. For us, as far as sales go, does a video sell your beer for you? Does it mean that you're making more money? From what we've seen, it does slightly, but we promote every beer, so it's hard to compare. But we know that it does do is it makes a lasting impression, and it's more memorable. So our goal with videos is basically to build our brand identity, and that's our main goal. So hard to measure that, but the comments and the engagement really are telling you that. So read the comments, and they'll get you making another video pretty quick, and then you won't have any time for anything else.
Yeah, another thing as well, like a lot of us have online stores, I'm assuming, and so if you can connect your digital shop to the content that you're posting, and especially with merch, we find that works really well. That's like an easy way to be able to measure sort of how that's translating to sales. Might not necessarily work for translating to sales in your tap rooms, but it's always nice to hear people chatting about a funny video that they saw when they're sitting at the bar. Yeah.
And I think that's a nice plug in terms of the measurement. I mean, in all of the platforms in the native app, there are insights. So look at your insights and say, okay, how many click-throughs did I get to my site? How many referral traffic, clicks did I get to that particular link that I put? How many clicks in the link tree did I see? And then start to tailor your content based on what your audience is interested in seeing. So again, you're wanting to serve people content that they're interested in engaging with. And that's how you'll start to show up on more feeds, start being suggestively sold to other people that weren't necessarily following you yet. So you're trying to beat the system a little bit, but you're also trying to grow in an organic way. I won't plug the digital advertising too much, but essentially it's that fine balance of it's becoming harder and harder to show up in the algorithm if you're just doing organic. If you start to put a little bit of strategic paid money behind some of those digital marketing efforts, it does work really well to help boost your organic as well. So let's talk about music. It's a big gray area right now within the industry in terms of using trending songs, in terms of what's legal and what's not. And I'm following it quite closely, I expect that Instagram and Meta are going to come out with something pretty heavy in terms of what people are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do with a lot of these pop songs coming up and people using them. So let's ask our panel, what's the deal? What kind of songs are you using in your reels right now?
I can start. This is something we've stumbled with a little bit, and I think are still trying to figure out the answer. So I'm sure a lot of you have experience doing this that would be useful for us to hear about. Sometimes when we do shows at the brewery and we have local musicians that we work with, like it's always nice to be able to use their music in videos. Obviously, that's not necessarily gonna help any trend as far as like audio files go, but yeah, it's a little bit of the Wild West as far as I can figure out with what songs you can use and not use for what things. So yeah.
I think you might have something to say on this one.
Yeah, it makes me very nervous because we rely heavily on audio, and At the outset, we would, take a song, slow it down by 2% to try and fool the algorithm or whatever is detecting that. And sometimes that would work. Sometimes our video would get taken down. And recently, what we've been doing is just going into your personal Instagram account, check for the song you want to use. If it's on Instagram for personal accounts, then you just use that, and we download the song. I usually pay for the song regardless, just as a policy. It's $1.30, buy the song, and then put it in your video. It automatically recognizes the song, and it just works great for now. But yeah, so used to not work as well. Now it works better. I don't know what's coming, but I mean, feeling pretty lucky to be able to use Lizzo's Juice in my next video.
From a legal perspective, at the agency, we recommend using that original audio, making sure that right now we're only using mashups, we're only using remixes that are done by a content creator or somebody that's a user-generated content, UGC. Anything with a record label is a no-go, especially in digital advertising. So we're recommending to our clients, keep it legal. If you don't think it's legal, not put it up, because we don't know what's going to happen. But some of those original audios are mashups that you are able to use right now, and there's lots of hacks in terms of how to get those trending songs. But it's a topic that 100% something will happen in the next 6 months in terms of what brands are going to be able to use. When in doubt, go to some of the big brands to see what they're doing. So Ryanair, Duolingo, they're using mashups. They're using original audios without the brand name in there, essentially, so without the artist name in there. And that's where we take our lead, and that's from our associates in the UK. We're following their lead. So we've got, I think, time for some tips and tricks. And so a question for all three of our panelists, a top takeaway or tip that they've learned about video content creation.
Yeah, I think I'll speak from a smaller company perspective. In the last year, especially as video content has become more popular, I think the biggest strength of video content is look at the types of videos that are becoming popular, right? They're a lot more informal. They're a lot more off the cuff. There's a bigger focus on creativity and funness. And I think that's a big contrast to maybe like a year or so or more ago, we're focusing more on photo content. And it was hard for small companies to do it because you're really stuck on getting the perfect photo, perfect caption. You're just really trying to do a lot with a little. And it's just so many more reasons why you wouldn't make a post. So, don't feel too pressured to make the top trending thing. Just have a look at what's actually trending, and you'll notice they're just kind of off the cuff, informal, fun videos. And I think that's something that everyone can do.
Yeah, I agree. I think for us, biggest takeaways since sort of day one when we started, which is about 3.5 years ago. Obviously, a lot has changed in the social media landscape, but I think using humor to our advantage and just doing things that feel authentic to what we are interested in, or how, being consistent with our brand voice and our personality, and just kind of not letting too many forces around us influence the decisions that we're going to make as far as content creation. Do stuff that feels real to who you are and what your brand is. And I feel like that's been, we've had some success just sticking to that.
Yeah, I think kind of to piggyback on that, that's kind of the thing is really have your brand guidelines down, talk about it a lot. So really try to balance those trends with your unique voice. I think when a lot of people think about trends, they think about TikTok dances and challenges, but that's not really what's effective about it. You can find the video formats and you can do things that fit into your brand voice without, just chasing short-term likes and follows and stuff like that. So really important to figure out what those trade-offs are going to be between what makes your brand voice unique and just doing what everyone else is doing.
Okay, so my number one tip, especially when creating video content, is clean your lens. Great way to start. You don't want to go too long with a dirty lens, but seriously, definitely do that. Another little tip, we use a bounce all the time. It's $60. It's a circular disc that pops out, and it's got white on one side, gold or silver on the other. This is the thing that's a way to shoot videos really cheap without lights. Use natural light, bounce light around. That's probably my number one cheap hack. Otherwise, ideas, everything starts with an idea, and if you got to have a good idea to start with. And then in shooting a video, what we try to do is do sort of like what you were mentioning, the beginning, middle, end, like an act, like a 3-act play or like a movie, where you have a beginning, you have some conflict, and you resolve it, and then you have an ending. And if you do that, people will be engaged till the end. And also, well, for one, make it short, please, because people, their attention span is like brutal. So you have about 2 seconds to engage them right away. So you put something really good at the beginning, and then bring them through a little bit of a story. Regardless, you have to have an ending, or it'll suck, in my opinion. Anyways, so a couple little quick ones there for you.
And I would say use your resources, use your people. I mean, the people behind the scenes are a great asset to all these videos. So try something out. If you're launching a new label, if you're launching a new seasonal, use some people to introduce it, and start really small with an idea and see how it works. So we're going to watch a couple, and then we'll get into some shameless plugs. And there's also an opportunity we're going to ask our panelists some questions here.
All around the world. Yeah, I know.
I will say that if Isaiah brought in a basketball, we were going to see if he could do this again.
Yeah. Now basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way they dribble up and down the court. I keep it so fresh on the
This got incredible engagement, though. And, I mean, I don't know if we're allowed to say it, but the mayor of Victoria did this. So, I mean, we talk about being legal, but also celebrating and having fun. So this got incredible engagement. And if you were able to build on the momentum of that after the fact, that would have helped you in the algorithm of showing your content. So again, this tells more of a story, right? This tells more about what's happening behind the scenes in the field of telling that the beer farmers, right? Not just all about showing a beer being poured. So I think there's a lot you can do with the brand identity and how you're sharing those stories with a lot of these cool visuals.
He's the greatest dancer. Oh, wow, wow. I say, oh, wow, wow. He's the greatest dancer. Oh, wow, wow. The champion of dance, his moves will put you in a trance, and he never leaves the disco alone. Arrogance, but not conceit. As a man, he's complete. My creme de la creme. Please take me home. He wears the finest clothes, the best designers, heaven knows. Ooh, from his head down to his toes. Halston, Gucci, Fiorucci. He looks like a steal. That man is dressed to kill.
So again, a high production value on that one. But again, showing the range, right? Showing the range of iPhone versus perhaps a 4K, and then definitely a production studio that did that. And so there's quite a range that you can facilitate. Was it? Incredible. So incredible. There we go. Any questions from the audience for our panelists? Yes. Yes, do it.
Thanks, you guys. See on the likes on what you have there, what was the overall engagement on that, which isn't shown there? Do you know on those videos? Yeah.
Well, the Daffy Twister spread, that one had 80,000 views, and then on Facebook it had 900,000.
Congrats. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we find that sometimes the likes and the engagement are starting to become detached, sort of, especially with video content, because people aren't liking the videos as they used to with the photo content. So yeah, totally checking the engagement. We have over 7,000 followers, so
we're happy. We're getting 4,000 or 5,000 people seeing a video like that, and that's showing growth and sharing and everything else like that. So we would, for us, that's pretty successful.
Yeah, I agree. I just pulled it up. 18.5 thousand views, 350 shares, 68 comments, and 1,300 likes. I think definitely shares within like our local community is like the thing that we're most paying attention to with a video like that.
Like something like, hey, check this video out, which wouldn't be recorded at all, right?
Yeah.
Adds to the.
What do we do with YouTube? Nothing?
Well, some things like, especially, our Ale Trail video just launched today, and sometimes when you're doing that, they're making like longer style content, and I think that can be really good for storytelling. I think people have stories that can be told in 5 minutes and not 30 seconds. So when you are making something, consider making like the longer format version, right? If you do work with a video production company, they'll typically make a 5-minute version and a 50-second version and a 10-second version for you. And YouTube can be a great, that's where I go to find, more in-depth and interesting stories.
Yeah, just on that YouTube, we haven't figured it out, but we just kind of use it as like an archive for some of the more produced content. So when we put out a nice, well-made video that took a lot of effort and resources, we'll put it up on our YouTube channel and just let those live there, and it won't get lost in the noise of a feed. So yeah, if you go back to our YouTube channel, I think it's like 30 minutes of just videos that just, go one after another, and they're all kind of, it's like a little museum.
YouTube shorts are a thing too that are coming and are on the rise. So when we as content creators put together a video, a 1 minute, 2 minute, we'll cut it into 5, 15-second videos as well.
I just wanted to ask, what would be the cost if you're saying hiring a production company? Like what did it cost you to make that video? You made it yourself, or what are we looking at if we have to hire somebody because not everybody has you?
Okay, I think the recording, we're trying to make a movie here. Okay, so that video took a bunch of planning, but it was shot in an afternoon, and it cost us a bunch of beer for the Olympians that are in there. Ex-Olympians, well, they're always Olympians, I think. Yeah. So they milked us for a bunch of beer, and we traded sweatshirts and hoodies and stuff, and then we bought lunch, dinner, and that was basically the wigs, sunglasses, stuff like that. Usually our bills for any of our videos are a wig, sunglasses, some shirt, but that video, if you add it all up, it probably costs about $1,000, which is good, which is great. I mean, I would spend that all the time if I could do that, but yeah, so.
Everyone here does collaborations, whether with other breweries or other companies. Do you have any tips on how to maximize that? Because sometimes you do something and then it doesn't really get as far as maybe you're hoping to, especially with bigger companies out there. I know Whistleboy's done Arc'teryx collabs. That's all you wear, basically. But yeah, any tips or anything that you've had success with when you collaborated with somebody?
Is like 100 times harder to get stuff done. So keep it simple and have fewer people involved, less decision makers.
I see where you're going with that. I don't actually have any tips for that, but actually, yeah, okay. We worked with Arc'teryx as well, and basically you have to make sure that they do their end, because they don't always. Some people might not get the memo that they should be sharing the content. We actually had a collab that we did, and I looked back, and then they didn't really share anything. So we made sure to be all over them, and whoever was running their social media, just hound them on DM. Would you
go as far as setting guidelines before you collab?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea. We did this year, because in the past it didn't work out the way we wanted it to. So I basically, you know, it's hard to be like, okay, we're going to make a contract that you're going to do X, Y, and Z. But I made it very clear that it's their responsibility to promote the product at the very least. I mean, they should. I actually just went to the person above them and said, hey, they're not doing their job last year. Or the person who did it last year didn't do their job. Can you do it right this year? And it worked out. Sometimes you just have to do stuff like that, unfortunately, because, you know, people are busy and distracted, especially the people running social media.
Yeah, we're actually in the middle of co-promoting an event that we're hosting with this company that we keep talking about. So yeah, I think just beforehand having a really good sense of what is everyone hoping to get out of it, and then managing those expectations before you actually get the project off the ground, and obviously make sure you're all aligned on when everything's going to go out. And I think just that coordination of pushing everything out at the same time and creating those links. I think the timing part of it is really key to be on the same page with that.
And we've got to wrap up, but it's okay to put a contract out there. So I'm going to just cruise through a bit of the content here and add my shameless plug about the content creators. So we work with the BC Ale Trail, and we have contracts that we can send as basically a template. And it's okay to ask for X, Y, and Z based on you giving X, Y, and Z. And I think having that contract in place helps align expectations so you know what you're going to get out of it. So content creators are out there. They come in the form of influencers, photographers, videographers. It's not a high production, with a big bill at the end anymore. And so agencies like ourselves can do that, or there's a lot of freelancers. So if you don't have the time, speak to somebody. Sometimes it could be in half contra as well, so just find someone that works in your community, that understands your brand, gets your culture, can work with the people. It's a great way and a great resource to go to. And then again, looking at measurement, looking at the data, making sure that you're looking at your numbers and helping that content impact your decisions. So look at your data to impact performance. And that's what we do with the agency in terms of monitoring and social media listening. So that wraps our presentation. Thanks for having us today, and enjoy the rest of the day.